Hello there, my name is Aussie Villain and this is my new channel for Football Manager 2018. Now what we're going to do with this video is like a tutorial of what to do once you have your club in the game. It can be a little bit overwhelming. Now as my name would suggest, I am Australian by passport, if not accent, and a Villa fan. So we are going to start here looking at Aston Villa. Now I always find the most important thing or the easiest thing to do first off is just to assess your squad and see what you're working with. Now if it's a team like me in Villa that you support and you're going to know roughly what you have anyway. But if it's a team that you're not as familiar with, I always find one thing to do is to check your reserves, check your youth teams, because you'll usually find at least one or two players in there that are going to be useful to you in the first team. So for example here with Villa, if we go to Jake Doyle-Hayes, we have a midfielder with a 3-star potential. He's going to be useful to me in the first team. Cup games, off the bench, things like that. And then we also have Callum O'Hare down here as a striking option. Again, 3 stars. He's going to have a use to me in the first team. Another sort of player that you will often find is the players that have fallen out in real life. So for Villa, in that we have Gabriel Bonlahor. I'm going to leave him in the reserves because I think he's had his time. But you will sometimes find one or two players like that are going to be of some use to you. And I always find it's better to use these youth team players rather than going out and signing someone just for the sake of signing a backup. Use your youth team players. They're generally going to be more loyal to the club and more likely to stay at the club if you develop them into better players. Now the second thing that you're going to want to do once you sort of know the players you're working with is look at your tactics. You want to see what's going to fit your players rather than have a preconceived notion. I mean, you can see here for the most part this formation is the players are generally happy in the roles that they're playing. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a separate tutorial just on tactics because it's in depth, it's involved, and it is ultimately what will decide if you succeed or not in Football Manager. So that'll be to follow shortly. Now the next thing you want to have a quick look at is the coaching and the training. If we just have a look at the coaches that we have here, what you're going to want to do is see if things can be improved or they can be maximized. Now we can see here, for example, there's 3 goalkeeping disciplines, 2 coaches. If we can get a 3rd coach in, we could maximize that potential. Now another thing that we could look at doing sort of to show just sort of how to maximize things is they're all going to be roughly the same. Sometimes what you'll find is that a coach is only coaching the same thing as another coach will be have a lesser ability at it, if that makes sense. So always just check around, just make sure that there isn't a coach that can do the same role better than another coach. You want to make sure that you have these star ratings maximized out. And another thing for Villa in this particular case, we see Mark Delaney here. He's only 2.5-star coach. All his abilities are in single digits, so that's another position that is likely, we will be able to maximize and get somebody better in. Now then you're going to want to have a look at your scouting. Scouts are very important, obviously, to allow you to discover players and find out who you can sign. What I recommend is you've got to be realistic with your scouting, particularly in Football Manager now with the packages. Now as a bigger championship club that we are going to want to get into the Premier League, I feel that worldwide for senior players is a good option for me. For youth teams, for youth packages or youth players, I don't see the sense in England scouting players around the world because it's going to be the work permit issue. Now, if you're in a league that doesn't have the work permit issues, then yeah, for sure, signing a wonder kid from the Peruvian 3rd division is probably going to be a good thing because you'll get him for cheap. You can then in the future either sell him on or he will be a very good player for you. So that 480,000 for the year is probably going to have some benefit. Given that we have work permits, even if I find that one, the kid in Peru, I'm probably not going to be able to get a work permit for him. So I'm going to save that and just scout the youth of Europe. But for a senior player, I might find, for instance, a South Korean international playing in the K-League. I'm probably going to be able to bring him over. Villa's probably going to be seen for him as an upgrade on a K-League club. So scouting the world for a senior player is going to be beneficial for me. If I was managing a team in League 2, I'm probably, maybe going to want to scout just in Europe, and for youth players, probably just in the UK and Ireland, because they're the sort of players that I'm going to be able to bring into the club. So you just want to be realistic. You don't want to be paying for a worldwide package to scout all these players that are going to have no interest or not have the ability, if they can't get work permits, to come and play for you. And likewise, you don't want to have worldwide scouting if you employ one scout, because it's not going to work. One scout can only do so much. Now, when you are looking at bringing in players, I always find, unless you are managing the super clubs, that youth is king. One thing that I do enjoy doing in Football Manager is starting with a club bottom of the bottom league in a country, and just working them up through the leagues and trying to win the league, get into Europe, and off chance maybe win the Champions League. In order to do that, you want to sign young players, because as a League 2 club, we'll use League 2 as an example again, you're not going to be able to go out and sign a player of Premier League quality. You might be able to sign a 17-year-old of Premier League potential. So if you were to get that sort of player in, then as he develops, hopefully the club will be developing through the divisions. So when you get to the Premier League, you have a club that it has 3 or 4 players that are already of enough quality to play in that division. Plus, they're going to have that attachment to the club and to you. You'll see that in their information that they like the club, they like you, or hopefully both. So yeah, always find, unless you have the ability to buy in that finished product, youth is king. Always go for the young player and develop them into the superstar, rather than trying to buy the superstar. Now, just if transfers in general, when you're starting out, you don't want to start signing players for the sake of signing players. That's going to affect this team cohesion. What I would recommend doing is let the squad play together, get that team cohesion up, let them get used to your tactics, how you want them to play, and then you'll be able to see exactly what the strengths and weaknesses are, whether you need a pacey striker, whether you need a fullback that is better on the ball, whether you need a central defender that's better in the air. You'll get to see these things, and you can make a more targeted signing rather than just going out and making a signing for signing's sake at the beginning of the game. And always remember too that 6 months into the game, when you reach the January of that first year, you're going to be able to look and sign players that are coming off contract the following summer on free transfers. So whereas you may have gone and spent £3 million on a backup central defender, you may be able to, if you can get by or loan someone in to cover you for that first season, you might then be able to go and sign a better player on a free transfer because he's coming off contract and he's sick of being a backup, or he wants a change, or whatever the situation may be. So it's always best, unless there's that obvious weakness in the squad, or you have Messi knocking on your door saying, please sign me, just hold off for that first season, see exactly what you have and what is going to benefit you most in terms of strengthening those weaknesses. Now, to begin the game as well, the final thing you're going to want to do is look at the match preparation, because again, as you could see in my team here, the cohesion wasn't great. So you're going to want to train team cohesion. You're going to want to train for match focus on tactics as well, I find, especially in pre-season, just to get everybody used to playing together how you want them to play. And then as you get closer to the season beginning, I always recommend to focus on defensive positioning. Defense is, youth is king, defense is king, because players that don't lose, they're going to support you for longer. Boards that don't lose are going to support you for longer as well. It's all well and good to go out and lose a game 4-3, but if you keep doing that week after week, you're going to fall down the leagues, players are going to start and lose faith in you, the board's going to start and lose faith in you, and then things just snowballing and become more and more difficult. If you win the first couple of weeks 1-0, then everybody's confidence goes up, both in you and in the way that the team is playing, and you're going to find things easier. It's the old Mourinho thing, isn't it? Build from the back, and then, you know, once you have that back line set, then you can work on going forward. And typically, you're always going to find a goal from somewhere, aren't you? Someone's going to pop up and get a goal. As long as you work on keeping that clean sheet, the worst you're going to do is a point. So for the start of the game, I always recommend team cohesion, tactics, and defense. That's the way that you want to begin to get off to a solid start. So that's my getting started tutorial. Check back if you've enjoyed this. We'll do the tactics one very soon. Please do subscribe to my channel. Give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed this particular video. But until next time, I've been Aussie Villain, and enjoy your Football Manager.